Chapter 351. Disregarding the storm on Weibo, today's high-end residential district was very peaceful. It was already very late, but the row of houses was still lit. Not only was it bustling, but it was also very warm. A 17 or 18-year-old girl stood downstairs and looked up at the house, her eyes filled with coldness. If she hadn't seen her elder sister's matter on Weibo, she probably wouldn't have known that her elder sister's death was so tragic. Her parents had given birth to her when they were old. She had only vaguely heard them say that she had an elder sister who had passed away in an accident before she was born. Because they were too sad, they had given birth to her. She felt an indescribable regret toward the elder sister she had never seen before. She had only seen her sister's picture. Now that she had seen the news on Weibo, if she hadn't confirmed that her elder sister's name and appearance were exactly the same as the one she had seen and heard, she wouldn't have dared to believe that her elder sister had died so tragically. It was no wonder her parents had never talked about her elder sister. She was furious. Her elder sister was so outstanding. How could the person who had bullied her back then still be alive? She had been different since she was young. She didn't know why she had such a special ability. She seemed to be able to make use of things that others couldn't see to create the effect she wanted. It was as if she had learned it all by herself. Today, she was thinking the same thing. Her eyes were red. Through some information, she had learned that the person who had bullied her elder sister lived here. She couldn't go up to the high-end residential district, but she could set it on fire. Back then, her elder sister had been trapped in a hotel and burned to death. Why couldn't this family do the same? Strange dots flickered in her eyes. With a move of her finger, she connected those dots and trapped them in the apartment building, gradually forming the image of a flame. The flame gradually expanded, and only she could see it. Accompanied by the rising flames, it slowly descended on the floor of the apartment building she had seen earlier. As long as the flame entered, their house would instantly be set on fire. She would be able to avenge her elder sister. Hong. She didn't notice that along with her movements, black chi was slowly floating around her, waiting for the flame to rise into the air. Pa! A hand suddenly landed on her shoulder. Duan Nianru was startled. The formation shattered, and she turned around to see an exquisite girl. She really looked like someone who had walked out of a TV series. Her long hair reached her waist and was slightly curled. There were even a few strands of hair floating in front of her forehead. Coupled with her cold face, she looked very much like a princess from a manga she had read. She was so surprised that her mouth opened slightly. "What are you doing?" A cold person spoke in a cold and cheerless manner. His voice had a different kind of air to it. That pair of eyes locked onto her, making her feel as if she had nowhere to hide. Duan Nianru's face turned red as she stuttered. Who are you?" Firstly, she felt a little guilty. She had never shown this kind of power in front of others before. She also knew that she was not normal, so she was afraid that she would be treated as a freak and captured for research. At this moment, she was afraid that Xiao Jin would notice something unusual. Xiao Jin sneered, "You don't need to know who I am. But what do you want to do? Do you think killing their entire family will solve this matter?" She glanced at her surroundings and saw that the black airflow had disappeared silently and gradually dissipated. Chapter 352. Xiao Jin's words caused Duan Nianru's face to turn pale. "What are you talking about? I'm just passing by." She didn't dare to admit that she wanted to kill this family. Xiao Jin said, "If you want to target someone, you shouldn't target this family. Apart from her, no one else in this family has done anything wrong. If you kill them, you'll only be seriously eroded. It's not easy for your family to give birth to two formation masters. Don't disappoint your sister." Duan Nianru was dumbfounded. "You? Who are you?" She was shocked. Xiao Jin looked around. There were surveillance cameras in the vicinity of this high-end residential area. If he stayed here for too long, he would be suspicious. "Come with me." Duan Nianru bit her lip. She didn't dare to believe that Xiao Jin was a stranger. However, his words gave her a feeling of trust. She didn't want to refuse. Xiao Jin had already turned around. Looking at Xiao Jin's back, she hesitantly followed. But when she turned back to look at the apartment building, she felt somewhat unwilling. When they arrived at the bustling street, Xiao Jin asked, "Have you eaten?" Duan Nianru was about to say that she had eaten when her stomach began to rumble. Her face turned even redder. She had been too shocked by the news and had rushed to the capital. She hadn't had time to eat and had used the excuse of going to her classmate's house to play. She had to go back tomorrow. She felt that if she did it flawlessly, no one would suspect her. She could go back and act as if nothing had happened. She didn't know where that thought had come from. She was just too angry. Her sister's death was the responsibility of those people. Why were they able to live without caring about anything until now? On what basis? Every year, on the anniversary of her sister's death, she would see her white-haired parents crying in front of her sister's grave. She didn't know why in the past. She only felt that after so many years, her parents still couldn't let go. Only now did she know who could let go. Her daughter had died so miserably. She had never met her elder sister, but she felt that she was the best person in the world. She was her younger sister, so she should avenge her elder sister. Xiao Jin saw her face change rapidly and chuckled. "Shall I treat you to a meal?" "Who are you?" Duan Nianru asked suspiciously. "Xiao Jin, your sister's friend." Duan Nianru. Soon, her face turned even redder. "Who are you trying to fool? My sister has been dead for 20 years, and you look only 20 years old. How can you be my sister's friend?" After saying that, she reacted and became even more flustered. "No. You know who my sister is?" Xiao Jin said. "Hurry up. You're wandering alone in the middle of the night? Aren't you afraid that if you get caught, your parents will lose you as well?" Duan Nianru subconsciously retorted, "Of course not. I'm not afraid even if I encounter bad people." She had the ability to resist all of this. Xiao Jin sneered. "Do you think you're the only formation master in this world?" A formation master who didn't belong to anyone was simply a delicious cake placed in front of those people. If they learned that Duan Nianru had a younger sister who was also a formation master, she would be doomed. Formation? What is a formation master? Duan Nianru asked impulsively. In truth, she didn't even know what this world was. She didn't even know that she was a formation master. She only thought that her special ability was a gift from the heavens. Chapter 353. It was indeed a blessing, but it would also lead to many dangers. In the end, Duan Nianru left with Xiao Jin out of curiosity. She hadn't eaten yet. She had thought that Xiao Jin would bring her somewhere, but they had ended up at a fast food restaurant that was open 24 hours a day. Duan Nianru. It didn't seem too good to discuss such matters in this place. Furthermore, she felt that the fairy-like Xiao Jin shouldn't have come to such a place. However, Xiao Jin had come. It was already late at night, and there weren't many people eating. The fast food restaurant was large, so they could find a place in the corner where no one would disturb them. When the waiter saw Xiao Jin, he was a bit surprised. Handsome people were treated differently. Even when he was ordering, the waiter spoke softly, afraid that Xiao Jin would be dissatisfied if he was too loud. After casually ordering a few sets, Duan Nianru whispered, "You ordered too much. We can't finish it. It's a waste." "Xiao Jin, you can just eat whatever you want." Duan Nianru. The two of them found a corner and sat down. Duan Nianru was conflicted, but she still asked, "You said that you're my big sister's friend. Is that true?" "My big sister has already passed away for 20 years. Furthermore, the news had revealed her big sister's matter recently." Duan Nianru was very suspicious that Xiao Jin had come here with other motives. She had seen on the news that the leaders who had concealed the matter back then would be punished. Could it be that he had been sent here by the leaders? Xiao Jin rested his elbows on the table and tilted his body slightly to look at her. "When did your powers appear?" "What?" Duan Nianru's eyes flickered. "I really don't know what you're talking about." Her vigilance was strong enough. Xiao Jin smiled. "It's good to have vigilance, and it's also good to have ability. However, you shouldn't use your ability to do things you can't do. If your big sister knew about this, she wouldn't be happy. Besides, you still have your parents. They're already old, and it wasn't easy for them to raise you. You shouldn't waste your life on this. Those people aren't worth it." Hearing that, Duan Nianru felt even more guilty. She had truly come to the capital in a fit of rage, and she hadn't thought too much about it. After all, she was only 18 years old. She hadn't been an adult for long, so she couldn't think properly about some things. It was also because of his young age that he was easily forced out by Xiao Jin. But did my sister die in vain? I've seen those people. The news said that at most, they'll be condemned morally, but they won't be punished by the law. I can't accept this for my sister. Her eyes reddened at the mention of her sister. Xiao Jin said, "You are only 18 years old this year. You have never seen your sister. Why do you still want to avenge her?" "Because she's my sister." Duan Nianru choked. "Although I haven't seen her, my parents have told me many times that she's very outstanding and kind. Back then, she relied on her own efforts to get into a top-tier university. She was the best student in our university. She should have had a bright future. My parents should be enjoying their lives instead of working so hard to raise me. So, why can't my kind sister get a good karma? You also know that your parents are working hard to raise you. In that case, you shouldn't do something that will ruin the rest of your life." Chapter 354. In truth, Xiao Jin wasn't very happy to persuade a child. If this person had been a stranger, he wouldn't have cared. However, this girl was Duan Ruyan's little sister. She had just taken Duan Ruyan's demonic spirit seed, so she couldn't just ignore it. Furthermore, her little sister was also a formation master. This family's genes were truly miraculous. It was already difficult for an average family to produce a single magus, let alone 2 magic array masters in one family. There were also very few families like the Zhongli family where both siblings were spirit readers. If Duan Nianru went astray because of this matter and was used by the people who controlled her sister, that would be a tragedy. Duan Nianru was startled. I won't be discovered." "You're dreaming. Do you think you're the only one with special abilities in this world? If you dare to make a move, the secret organization will find out where you are in a few days at most and then capture you. If you are caught by the people who used your sister, not only will your life be ruined, your parents won't be able to live either." Duan Nianru was frightened. When she heard that they used her sister, she was shocked. "Who used my sister?" "Your sister is also a spirit reader." Xiao Jin sighed. As if he was teaching a child some small knowledge, he explained the existence of spirit readers in this world, as well as her sister's matter. Since she wanted to take revenge for her sister, she was also someone who valued relationships and righteousness. Then she should know that there were other people behind the scenes. Those who had bullied her sister would suffer retribution. They would punish them in the real world. Karma already existed. Even if the law couldn't punish them, death wasn't the only punishment in this world. While he was talking, the fast food restaurant brought out several plates. There was a large pile of fast food in front of the 2 girls. At this time, Duan Nianru felt like she had lost her appetite. After listening to Xiao Jin's story, she couldn't stop her tears from flowing. My sister. She really had a bitter life. It was one thing for her to die tragically, but even after her death, she hadn't been able to live in peace for such a long time. Duan Nianru looked somewhat similar to Duan Ruyan, but she had probably been carefully taken care of by her parents since she was young. There was a hot-bloodedness in her that Duan Ruyan didn't have. So when she did such a thing, she didn't consider the consequences. She only thought that she had a special ability that allowed her to do things without being discovered. Now that she knew the severity of the situation, she felt even sadder for her sister. Hearing her sobs, the waiters looked over curiously. Xiao Jin calmly drank a cup of warm orange juice as he watched Duan Nianru cry. A 17 or 18-year-old child was really too young. The waiter didn't know if something bad had happened. He came over to ask Xiao Jin, but Xiao Jin just shook his head. The waiter saw that there was no other abnormality, so he didn't come over to ask. Since they were all in the shop, they could see everything. Duan Nianru cried for over 10 minutes. She couldn't stop crying, and in the end, she started hiccuping. She couldn't even feel her hunger anymore. When she was done crying, she choked with sobs and asked, "Then, who was the one who harmed my sister?" Xiao Jin said, "They'll appear sooner or later. You don't need to be anxious. You're 18 this year. Did you go to university?" Duan Nianru nodded. "I just finished my college entrance exam and came to the capital." Chapter 355. It just so happened that she had just finished her college entrance exam. She had also come to the capital. But compared to her sister, her grades weren't that outstanding. She had only gotten into an ordinary university in the capital. It wasn't far from Xiaojin's place, and it was only 5 or 6 stops away. Duan Nianru's parents didn't have much hope for her. Perhaps it was because of Duan Ruyan, but they felt that it was better for her to not have outstanding grades. Originally, they didn't want Duan Nianru to choose the capital. After all, something had happened here that had broken their hearts. But after learning that her sister had also entered the capital, Duan Nianru thought of this. She wanted to know if she could find traces of her sister. As a result, she saw the news on Weibo. My parents have already agreed to move to the capital. They will come to the capital to take care of me. Duan Nianru's parents were still worried. So when she came over, they would rent a house outside to take care of Duan Nianru. Duan Nianru's parents had relied on the compensation money to start a small business. They didn't have to worry about their lives. If it wasn't for Duan Nianru's birth, they might have already lost hope. Xiaojin didn't care about other people's matters. He only said, "There are advantages and disadvantages to moving to the capital. The capital is different from the cities you've been to. There's the spirit group here. If you don't want to join the spirit group, it's best if they don't know that you're a formation master." This was especially true when the spirit group didn't know about the existence of a formation master. Duan Nianru carefully looked at Xiaojin. "You said that you made a deal with my sister's soul. Who are you?" Xiaojin smiled. "I'm just an ordinary second-year student." "Oh, I'll be in my 3rd year soon." Duan Nianru, as if she knew so many things and knew that she was a formation master. How could she make a deal with her sister? How could she be an ordinary university student? Thinking of her sister who had already disappeared, Duan Nianru's expression dimmed. "You're so young, but your ferocity isn't small. You want to kill an entire family as soon as you make a move." Xiaojin evaluated what she wanted to do. You should know that abilities are bestowed by the heavens, and there are corresponding shackles. If you do something to someone else, it is very likely that they will retaliate against you in the same way in the future. Got it? Duan Nianru frowned. Then what's the use of this ability? Xiaojin, that depends on how you use it. You can hide your identity and be an ordinary person for the rest of your life and pretend that you don't have this ability. Didn't you maintain it well before? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been discovered for so many years. Duan Nianru lowered her head in silence. Xiaojin said, "Remember, no one can bind you. What binds you is your own heart. If you have any malicious thoughts, you will be like your sister and be demonized. That is not what your sister wants to see." Duan Nianru looked at her expectantly. Will those people really suffer retribution? Xiaojin nodded. There will be. Only now did Duan Nianru trust Xiaojin somewhat. She picked up a hamburger and slowly ate it. What's your name? Xiaojin had said so much, but she still didn't know Xiaojin's name. Xiaojin. Duan Nianru. Which character? Xiaojin. Xiao from Xiaoqian, Jin from today. Duan Nianru nodded. It's a bit strange. How about I call you Big Sister Xiao? Chapter 356. Xiaojin. Do as you wish. Duan Nianru was younger than her, so she could call her whatever she wanted. Xiaojin didn't care about this. After all, calling her big sister didn't mean she treated her as a younger sister. Duan Nianru took out her phone. Can I add you as a friend? Ignoring everything else, Xiaojin was truly handsome. Duan Nianru felt that she could brag to her classmates that she had met a beautiful big sister. Moreover, she wouldn't be alone in the capital in the future. She could look for Xiaojin. Of course, that was what she thought, but it did not mean that Xiaojin thought the same. Xiaojin indifferently took out his phone and added Duan Nianru's WeChat. She had come to persuade Duan Nianru not to let her big sister down. If Duan Nianru still refused to come to her senses, Xiaojin wouldn't care about her a second time. Duan Nianru had come to the capital very suddenly. She had only booked an ordinary hotel. Xiaojin sent her to the hotel before leaving. Duan Nianru looked at Xiaojin's WeChat name and fell into a daze. Such a fairy-like big sister, and her WeChat name was also quite cute. Xiaojin had gone out in the middle of the night, and by the time he returned, it was already very late. As a result, He just happened to run into Musilian, who had just come back from the disco. Musilian had been tiptoeing around, and the entire Mu family was already very quiet. But who would have thought that as soon as he took a step, he would see a white-clothed figure outside the door? If he hadn't immediately restrained himself, Musilian was afraid he would have screamed out loud. Fuck! Why had Sadako appeared in the middle of the night? Sadako takes 2 steps forward, and Musilian can see clearly with the help of the street lamp that it is his cheap sister. Musilian was almost scared out of his wits. He hastily whispered, "What are you doing out in the middle of the night?" Xiaojin said, "I went out to play." Musilian. He almost choked to death. She went out to dance and came back like a thief. On the other hand, Xiaojin went out and came back looking magnanimous. He was not afraid of being found out by Xiao Fei. They both went out in the middle of the night, so why was Xiaojin so magnanimous? Musilian felt that he had caught Xiaojin's weakness. Going out in the middle of the night. Do you still have any concept of access control? Xiaojin. How can you say that about me? Musilian. He quibbled. I'm a guy. I'm different from you girls. It's not safe for a girl like you to be outside in the middle of the night. Xiaojin. No, I'll be safer than you. Musilian. What do you mean by that? However, Xiaojin was not prepared to explain. She went into the house. Musilian was afraid that talking to her would attract the attention of the family. If Xiao Fei and the others woke up and saw that he went out to dance again, they would probably scold him again. He could do anything, but he was the #1 disco dancer. Look at Xiaojin, who also went out to fool around, was much more magnanimous than him. Musilian thought of this and felt that he was not found out. What was there to be afraid of? He puffed out his chest and went back to his room valiantly. The glass room was soundproof, so no matter how loud they were, they would not attract the attention of Xiao Fei and the others. What he was afraid of was that Xiao Fei and the others would go crazy in the middle of the night to check on him. It would be awkward if they happened to bump into him. Xiaojin went back to her room. The demonized spirit seed on her fingertip was dispersing. She looked at it and flicked it into the array in the house. If there was a place in the world that was the safest, it would probably be the Mu family. Even if there was a war, she could protect the Mu family. This was probably the treatment that only family members had. Chapter 357. When he woke up the next morning, Xiaojin received a special piece of news. At the same time, there was a thank you letter from Lindsay. The murder case in a foreign town had been solved. Due to China's request and the fact that the murderer was not an experienced person, he was quickly found out. It was a foreign man in his mid-20s. The reason why he did this was because he had promised someone that he would receive a huge sum of money after the deed was done. He was a drug addict and had already been hollowed out by the drug money, so he took the risk to do this kind of thing. The person who invited him to do this had a good relationship with him. He used to know him in school. Originally, everyone thought that this was an accidental murder case. They did not expect that it had already been planned and that he had hired a murderer. The person he wanted to kill was naturally Lin Si's godsister, Zhao Rulan. The mastermind who hired the murderer was Wei Dixuan. It had only been a few days since the incident broke out. Especially after they found out that Yao Hongyin's death was an accident, the school was furious. Because of an accident, such a big thing happened. When the truth was found out, Zhao Rulan could not believe it at all. It was not until the police came to take Wei Dixuan away that the man, who realized that the matter had been exposed, knelt down in front of Zhao Rulan on the spot. Lon Lon, I was just obsessed for a moment. I was just confused for a moment. Zhao Rulan stared blankly at the man who had been so gentle to her 2 days ago. She could not imagine that he would actually let someone raise a butcher's knife against her. Zhao Rulan's mother was so angry that her whole body was trembling. It took her a long time to stop herself from fainting. Although there were speculations, when the truth was really in front of everyone, no one could believe it. She walked up and slapped Wei Dixuan in the face. She gritted her teeth and scolded, "You beast! You're worse than a beast." The police immediately stopped her. "Madam, please don't do anything." Foreign countries paid attention to human rights. Even a confirmed mastermind who hired a murderer had human rights. Naturally, they could not let you beat him up. Of course, they understood the family's anger. Therefore, they gave them a verbal warning. Who wouldn't want to beat him to death after finding out that his son-in-law was the one who hired the hitman? At this moment, Zhao Rulan seemed to have just realized what had happened. She thought of Wei Dixuan's face from before, and then looked at Wei Dixuan, who was now crying bitterly and kneeling on the ground without any dignity. She couldn't help but feel cold all over. Her heart was so cold that it was terrifying, causing her entire body to tremble. Why did you do this? She seemed to have expended a great deal of energy to ask this question. I shouldn't have done this. I know I was wrong. Lan, please forgive me. I beg you to forgive me. You still have our child in your stomach. You have to think about the child. Zhao Rulan's eyes were filled with tears. She couldn't help but cry out, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Lan, I was really possessed. I shouldn't have done this. I know I was wrong. Lan, please forgive me. You still have the cheek to talk about children. If Mother Zhao hadn't been held back by Mother Lin, she probably would have killed Wei Dixuan. Lan is still carrying your child in her stomach. How could you do such a vicious thing? You heartless thing. Even after you graduated, you entered the top 500 companies and got promoted because of us. It's fine if you don't know how to be grateful, but you're actually so crazy. You're not a thing, and you're not even human. Chapter 358. Mother Zhao was so angry that she felt dizzy. Mother Lin quickly supported her and comforted her in a low voice. She was also angry. Anyway, now that he had been caught, Wei Dixuan would be punished by the law. It was a good thing that Zhao Rulan saw his true colors. Wei Dixuan was still crying over there. Zhao Rulan only felt that she was numb and couldn't hear anything clearly. Yes, they still had a child. So why did Wei Dixuan not even care about the child and actually want to kill Zhao Rulan? The police didn't let them talk for long and quickly took Wei Dixuan away. Mother Zhao directly found a well-known lawyer in the United States to deal with this matter. She still had some connections. She swore to let Wei Dixuan stay in jail for decades. It was extremely difficult to sentence people to death abroad. Although Wei Dixuan was the mastermind, his main target was Zhao Rulan. Zhao Rulan was fine. Because of this, he was most likely only sentenced to a few decades of punishment. However, there was no limit to the punishment. If the lawyer was strong enough to convict him of a heinous crime, it was possible for him to be sentenced to 70 or 80 years. He would never have a chance to get out of prison. After Wei Dixuan was caught, he still refused to let go of the reason why he wanted to kill Zhao Rulan. In the end, he was forced to break through his psychological defense and finally let go. The thoughts he revealed were truly devoid of conscience. He killed Zhao Rulan, and then he would be Zhao Rulan's legal heir. Even if there was still Mother Zhao and Father Zhao, they were not in good health. Zhao Rulan was the only daughter. If something happened to Zhao Rulan and the child in her belly, they would definitely not be able to hold on for long. Wei Dixuan felt that the more sensitive the situation was, the less suspicious he would be. Zhao Rulan still had his own child in her belly. Who would know that it was its biological father who found someone to kill its mother? He finally tricked Zhao Rulan to that remote town, but he didn't expect such a big accident to happen. He was indeed knocked unconscious at that time. This was all done to make it seem real. The purpose was to make it so that he didn't have a chance to make a move and wouldn't suspect him, as long as the murderer wasn't caught. If Zhao Rulan died, there was no evidence, and he might really succeed. When the news came back, Zhao Rulan didn't know why, but she instantly thought of the sentence that the fortune teller Lindsay had told her. This marriage, the family was ruined. The family, the family, the family. It wasn't a joke, it was real. If Wei Dixuan's plan succeeded, then her parents would be stimulated and met with an accident. Her family would be finished, and her property would fall into Wei Dixuan's hands. Wouldn't her family be ruined? Zhao Rulan fainted from anger. Lin Si briefly revealed the facts of Wei Dixuan's crime in his letter of thanks to Qiao Jin. He's not even human anymore. Do you know what he said? My elder sister and her family helped him so much. He thought that they were looking down on him and were just giving him pity. Oh my God. Missing is better than past. Master, tell me, what kind of peerless weirdo is this? If my godparents pitied him, why would they marry their precious daughter to him? He was born into a bad family, So he blamed my godsister's family for being too rich? If you think she's too rich, don't fucking marry her. You can be a noble prince, but you actually came up with a plan to kill your wife. You don't even care about your own child. Is this kind of person a natural beast? Chapter 359. Her tone was extremely angry. One could imagine how much of an impact this matter had caused. She was originally tutoring in English during the summer vacation. As soon as this happened, she immediately flew abroad to accompany Zhao Rulan and the others to deal with the follow-up matters. Xiao Jin had already guessed this fact, so he didn't reply. In fact, when she had her fortune told back then, she had roughly known that Wei Dixuan would be the culprit. There was no one else who could be the culprit when it came to marriage. However, she couldn't guess the reason. Now, she knew that there were always people in this world. No matter how good you were to them, they would think that you were deliberately provoking them. They were just cheap. Some people were unsurprisingly despicable, while others were despicable and vicious. After such an experience, Zhao Rulan would probably be traumatized by men, especially this type of man. Of course, what did this have to do with her? Missing is not as good as before. Master, my godmother and my sister want to thank you. I wonder if you have time to meet them? We can visit you. If it's really inconvenient for you, forget it. Today, it's very inconvenient. Missing is not as good as before. Master, I understand, but I really have to thank you for this. You're really amazing. If it wasn't for the fact that the case had to be kept confidential and that this matter had stimulated her sister too much, she couldn't help but want to announce this fortune teller to the entire internet. It was so accurate. It was simply godly. Missing is not as good as before. Shall I make up for my sister's fate package? This was a great calamity of fate. Back then, Lindsay had been alarmed. Now that Zhao Rulan had truly escaped from the gates of hell, she definitely had to order the most expensive package. Today, there's no need. The 1 million yuan has already been offset. Missing is not as good as before? Wasn't that 1 million yuan donated to the temple? Can it withstand my sister's disaster? Today, this kind of thing, the cycle of karma, is destined. There will naturally be someone there to deal with your sister's 1 million yuan. Whether it will come true or not depends on the subsequent fortune. Your sister has escaped this time, which means that she has enough fortune. This 1 million yuan is appropriate. But sometimes, no matter how much money, no matter how much fortune there is, it can't be offset. It's all personal fate. It can only be said that her life wasn't meant to end. Missing is not as good as before. I don't really understand. I don't understand, but I think it's amazing. But you're really effective. Missing is better than gone. Master, why did you open a cat treasure shop? If you were willing, there would be many people willing to hire you. There would be people willing to pay hundreds of thousands, or even millions. Why did you open an online shop, and it's so cheap? Today, I don't lack money. These 3 words explained everything. Lin Si instantly understood. A master was indeed a master. Look at the height of his thoughts and morals. They were here to benefit society. She did not lack money. That was because she was interested in reading other people's fortunes. If someone was lucky enough to be read by her, wouldn't that benefit society? Lin Si was incomparably glad that she had met the master back then. Otherwise, her little life would have been long gone. Lin Sio wanted to continue, but Zhao Rulan, who was lying on the hospital bed, asked her, Sio, are you chatting with the master? Lin Si nodded. Zhao Rulan was a little expectant. What did master say? No. Lin Si sighed. Master is probably an expert who wants to hide his identity. Moreover, he said that he is not short of money. He is probably from a super awesome family. Lin Si was a fan of novels. She could not help but think of the legendary super hermit family written in novels. They were not short of money. All of them were awesome. Chapter 360. Zhao Rulan smiled. In that case, I won't force you. Thank the master for me. Some things were better seen than heard. She didn't dare to be disrespectful to this master who was separated by the internet. These 4 words were enough to describe everything that she had encountered today, including the consequences of her actions. How could she not be afraid? She was too confident. Some things had been passed down for thousands of years and had their own reasons. There was always someone better than you. The master didn't reply. Lindsay put down her phone and looked at Zhao Roland curiously. Sister, have you thought about what Godmother said? Zhao Roland's face was a little stiff. Mrs. Zhao was talking about aborting the child. She didn't want Wei Dixuan's bastard child in this family. It wasn't that she didn't believe in her daughter, but she felt uncomfortable with Wei Dixuan's genes. After such a thing happened, she couldn't treat this child calmly, even if it was in her daughter's stomach. In fact, Lindsay agreed. The child's father was like this. For the future, she didn't recommend her sister to give birth to this child. Zhao Roland was also a little hesitant. In the end, it was maternal instinct. This was a child connected to her own blood. At this moment, Mother Zhao came in with a sullen face. Zhao Roland's heart skipped a beat. Mom? Mother Zhao said. Wei Dixuan's family called and said that they want you to write a letter of forgiveness to forgive Wei Dixuan. They also want the child to be born and raised by them. They want us to pay 100,000 yuan a month for living expenses. Speaking of this, she couldn't help but sneer. I didn't even hear an apology. I only heard them farting. Lindsay couldn't help but shout, "Oh my God, is this human language? How can there be people under the same blue sky who can become animals? Oh no, they're worse than animals. After all, they've already given birth to such a son. We should know what the family is like." Zhao Roland's face darkened. Mother Zhao said, I know you don't want to abort the child, but you have to think about reality. You're raising this child. His father is an executioner who wants to kill you. The child is innocent, but the child's father's family is not. If you give birth to this child, do you believe that Wei Dixuan's family will definitely not let us off? He only thinks that the only bloodline of their family has been sent to prison by you. Now, this is their only hope. It's their kindness that they didn't cut you into pieces. If you give birth to this child, do you think you'll have a peaceful life? Although they were immigrants, it was impossible for them not to return home. Moreover, Mother Lin and the others were also in the country. Wei Dixuan's parents knew the address. There was also a situation where Wei Dixuan's parents directly broke into the Lin family's house. There was always a lot to consider. Zhao Roland's heart turned cold when she heard those words. Now that she thought about the future, it did make sense. It was true that she loved her children, but when she thought of Wei Dixuan, she was unable to overcome this hurdle. The woman who used to share his bed with him in the past probably thought about killing him all day long. How was she going to explain this child when he grew up in the future? If she wasn't selfish now, she wouldn't be able to be selfish in the future. She still had her children, her grandparents, and so many relatives. Thinking of this, Zhao Roland closed her eyes. A few drops of tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. Her voice was also filled with incomparable exhaustion. Mom, let the hospital arrange the surgery for me. I don't want to keep this child anymore. Chapter 361. Duan Ruyan's matter was not over yet. The next day, she received an invitation from He Yao. He Yao invited her to dinner, saying that it was an urgent matter. When she arrived, she saw He Yao with Lan Xiaoni. The others were not there. In the cafe, Lan Xiaoni was wearing children's denim overalls and had braids. She was eating the cake in front of her obediently and cutely. There was no trace of the village in the photo. It seemed that He Yao was also a master. Xiao Jin arrived and sat in front of her. Are you in charge of taking care of the child now? He Yao coughed. It can't be helped. Our group is made up of men, and Shua Dai is still a child. How can we take care of her? I'm not very busy with work, so I can take care of her sometimes. Besides, you know her ability. I feel safer taking care of her. It made sense. Lan Xiaoni ate the cake and looked at Xiao Jin with a smile. Hello. Xiao Jin also smiled. Hello. He Yao said, the matter I'm looking for you is not troublesome, but it's a little troublesome. Xiao Jin, get to the point. He Yao said awkwardly, there are two main things. One is that an unknown high temperature was found in an apartment building in the capital last night. The spirit group's detectors found a very powerful spiritual wave there. We suspect that a registered spiritual reader has appeared. Fire-type spiritual readers are most afraid of demonized spiritual readers. I don't believe that a normal spiritual reader would attack ordinary residents in an apartment building. Xiao Jin thought of what happened last night and looked indifferent. Oh, fire-type spiritual reader? Isn't that quite normal? It's not normal if the spiritual wave is strong. The danger level of the other party is not comparable to the demonized spiritual readers we caught before. Hiao was still a little nervous. The entire spirit group is nervous now. The most important thing is that the foreign spirit group is going to visit China at this time, and the leader is a troublesome person. The capital needs to be well protected, so I'm telling you this matter. If you encounter it, this demonized spiritual reader will be yours. Oh, I see. Hiao had good intentions. It just so happened that the spirit group couldn't solve this problem, so she would leave it to Xiao Jin. However, Xiao Jin clearly did not care about this. She was more interested in the spirit group that was going to visit China. A spirit group from overseas? Hiao wasn't surprised that she was concerned about this. She quickly explained, it's the spirit group overseas. However, they are different from our unified spirit group. They are divided into many factions. You know that in Europe, there are many countries with different religions. They are not as close to each other as we are. Therefore, there are many spirit groups. This group that is visiting China is one of the most powerful ones, the He family. That's right, they usually follow a family system. Those who are accepted into He are all super strong spiritual readers. This time, the leader is a woman called Joanna. Xiao Jin's eyes lit up. Wow, that sounds interesting. But this Hurley family, Yao's face was serious. To be honest, they do things very casually. When they came here once, a spiritual reader died for unknown reasons. We all suspected that it was the Hurley family, but we didn't have any evidence. Everyone in their family is ridiculously strong. They don't seem to be from the same world as us. If it wasn't for the fact that we have an overwhelming advantage in numbers, just the Hurley family alone would be enough to fight us. Xiao Jin said, I'm interested in the latter part. Go find that demonized spiritual reader. I'll help you take a look at this He. If he really attacked a spiritual reader, wouldn't this be a free tonic? Hiao was speechless. No, that was not what she meant. Chapter 362. Hiao's original intention was for Xiao Jin to deal with the matter of the demonized spiritualists, not the Hurley family. Even if there was a problem, the Hurley family could not afford to have a problem in China's territory. Otherwise, who knew what they would do? In this kind of conflict between spiritualists, the victims were usually ordinary people. Hiao looked a little troubled. Xiao Jin, although I don't know what your ability is, the spiritualists in this world are really complicated. Even if they are not demonized spiritualists, some people are not necessarily spiritualists who do good. You are just one person. Xiao Jin was just one person. She could not deal with a large group. If she acted too high profile, she would be dealt with sooner or later. Now, the spirit group was monitoring her, but she had shaken them off several times. If the spirit group could not do anything, Hiao really did not want to see any ugly situations happen. That's fine. You just have to make sure that I won't do anything to ordinary people, right? Xiao Jin smiled faintly and said, moreover, I'm only helping you with the investigation. If the He family is so arrogant, wouldn't it be bad if they came to China and bullied us? She did not have any concept of national boundaries. However, this body was still a citizen of China after all. Sometimes, she still had to consider her own country's affairs. Hiao could not persuade her. She regretted saying this out loud. However, since Xiao Jin knew, it was not a big deal. It was not a secret that Joanna had brought the Hurley family to China. Lan Xiaoni whispered from the side, Godmother, can I eat ice cream? Hiao naturally rejected her. No, you can't eat ice cream. Xiao Jin supported her chin and looked at Lan Xiaoni. If a child calls you that, won't it affect your ability to find a boyfriend? What's wrong with that? Hiao smiled bitterly. I'm already so old. It's embarrassing for Xiaoni to call me sister. Besides, I'm not interested in dating for the time being. Hiao was not young for Xiao Jin. She was almost 30 years old. On the surface, she was a professional manager who did a good job and had a high salary. In addition, she was a spiritual reader with good benefits. For her, as long as she was willing, she could find a boyfriend at any time. She just didn't like it. If a spiritual reader didn't find a suitable spiritual reader partner and only found an ordinary person, it wouldn't be too good. There were many hidden dangers that they could not sense. Therefore, Hiyao decided not to consider such a matter for the time being. When Hiyao mentioned this, she was concerned about Xiao Jin. What about you? Now that you're 20 years old, you can find a boyfriend. You're so pretty, it's not a big deal for you to fall in love. You can experience the feeling of falling in love. Dating. Xiao Jin chewed on these 3 words as if she had heard something funny. This kind of thing is too redundant for me. To her, it was better to stay at home and study arrays than to fall in love with someone. Moreover, with her state of mind, she was not suitable for love. Everyone was the same in her eyes. There was no difference. Love was something she had only heard of. How magical was it? She suddenly thought of Su Rong and Ming Chu. It was probably magical, but it was not suitable for her. Chapter 363. Hiyao knew that Xiao Jin had a strange temper. She was young, but she seemed to have seen a lot. There was always a kind of maturity that did not conform to ordinary people. This kind of girl's family situation was generally more complicated. Xiao Jin's family was also more complicated. Now that she was in the Mu family, she did not know how her life was. Hiyao was letting her imagination run wild. After chatting with Xiao Jin for a while, she left with Lan Xiaoni. Every time Hiyao saw her, she did not hide it from others. It seemed that she was not afraid of others knowing that she and Xiao Jin had a close relationship. The spirit group was monitoring her, so she could say that she was testing Xiao Jin. However, today, Xiao Jin had just left the place where he met Hiyao when he felt an unusual aura. Someone was following her. The spirit group usually used their own abilities to monitor her, but it did not work on Xiao Jin at all. Modern surveillance would still be able to find traces of her. She would not deliberately erase her figure from the various surveillance videos. She seemed to be calm, but in fact, the aura nearby was under her control. The scattered array points flashed through her eyes one by one. As long as she wanted, she could trap the person who was following her in an instant. She did not move. She just waved her hand and stopped the car, ready to go back to the Mu family. The person who was following her drove at the same time. There was a faintly discernible tension in the air. There was a part of her journey home that was relatively remote because the Mu family lived in a wealthy district. Although it was remote, it was relatively quiet. However, the nearby surveillance cameras were in place. When the car passed by, Xiao Jin clearly felt that the nearby surveillance cameras were flashing strangely. Someone was affecting these things. It was probably to make it easier for them to not leave any traces. At the same time, in the eyes of the driver, a figure suddenly appeared on the bright road. He was not slow to begin with, so he was scared out of his wits. He subconsciously turned the steering wheel, and the whole car made a sharp turn and came to a sudden stop. He almost hit the guardrail on the side of the road. Why is there someone suddenly? The driver cursed angrily. However, when he looked again, he was immediately stunned. There was no one in front of him. Not even a car passed by. Damn, was he seeing things? The driver's eyes widened. He couldn't believe such a ridiculous thing. The car stopped by the side of the road. At the same time, a specially formed sharp blade came straight at the taxi like a thunderbolt. The sharp blade instantly cut through the rear windshield, and the entire windshield made a loud shattering sound. Just as it was about to pierce through the back of Xiao Jin's head, it stopped there. The driver turned his head and saw the frightening scene. He immediately screamed. Why did the glass explode? What the hell is this? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 sharp blades were formed from the air and flew towards Xiao Jin with extreme speed. It was almost possible to hear the sound of them tearing through the air. They came from different directions, carrying with them an unwavering determination. It seemed like they wanted to kill Xiao Jin here. There was even a faint sonic boom in the air. However, just like before, the 3 transparent blades stopped a few centimeters away from Xiao Jin's face, unable to advance even half an inch. Even the driver saw this scene. He was stunned, and could hardly describe the strange scene in front of him. After thinking for a while, he probably realized that he had encountered a legendary fantasy event. His eyes rolled back and he simply fainted. Chapter 364. As soon as he fainted, the accelerator of the car began to turn. Under the control of an inexplicable force, the entire car began to move spontaneously. It was extremely fast. First, it moved backward to create a large space, then it suddenly moved forward. Its goal was the guardrail at the edge. Beyond the guardrail was a hillside. At such a speed, it was inevitable that the car would be destroyed and the people would die. The fuel tank in the car was also making a strange rumbling sound, like the sound of boiling water. Xiao Jin sat in the back and did not even move her eyebrows. She only glanced at the driver, who fainted from fright and then looked out of the car window. 0.01 seconds after the car slammed into the guardrail, it could not move forward anymore. The strange sound of the fuel tank in the car gradually subsided. Squeak! The tires were still moving forward with all their might. The speed had completely exceeded the limit of the car's endurance. However, the entire car was strangely motionless, as if it was being pressed down by someone, causing the person in the dark to be unable to exert any strength. I knew it. She's definitely not as simple as a sorcerer. How is that possible? The person in the dark gritted his teeth. 3 spiritualists attacked together, and they were all elites. Could it be that they could not kill her? At this moment, the door of the taxi opened with a click. The girl in jeans and flat shoes stepped out of the car. She was dressed very elegantly and casually, but this simple elegance could not hide the kind of immortal aura she emitted. Seeing her come out, the pupils of the person in the dark shrank. They were clearly very far away, but they saw the corner of the girl's lips curl up, and that clear voice that was like the sound of nature. That's great. If you don't attack, where would I get the spirit seed? That sentence immediately made the 3 spiritualists' hair stand on end. Spirit seed. The recently disappeared demonic spirit seed was taken by her. Thinking of this, the 3 spiritualists realized that something was wrong and immediately wanted to retreat. However, in an instant, the wind and clouds rose, and the sky changed color. This change in color was only for them. In their eyes, the sky suddenly darkened as if the sky had turned dark. Streaks of red light suddenly appeared, like streaks of light and shadows of swords. With a chilling sound, they pierced through the sky and accurately bound their positions. The string was like a blade, flickering with a faint red light. It was very troublesome. They had never seen such a terrifying ability before. Their eyes widened. What is this? What ability does she have? Impossible, impossible. How did she do it? She had the ability to predict and attack? What is she? The 3 spiritual readers turned pale with fright. No matter how stupid they were, seeing such a scene, they knew that things were serious. Unfortunately, they were powerless to reverse the situation. Butterflies gradually appeared one after another. They danced gracefully and slowly flew towards the red line. They were clearly far away from Xiao Jin, but they couldn't move. They could only watch as the butterfly slowly flew over. When the flickering light touched them, it was as if they had been vaporized. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they disappeared from the world. The butterfly slowly disappeared, and peace was restored between heaven and earth. It was still sunny outside. The taxi was parked by the roadside. Xiao Jin just stood beside the car. She retracted her hand. The 3 spirit seeds had already vaporized. It wasn't only demonic spirit seeds that could be taken. It would be a waste not to take such a person who came knocking on her door. Chapter 365. Ordinary spiritualists, without demonization, could not be sure if they were a good person. Demonization was completely losing one's mind and being controlled by a demon, so it was not tolerated by heaven and earth. But some spiritualists, while maintaining the mind of a normal person, did not do normal things. She even knew who sent these 3 spiritualists. Feng family. Her lips curled up. Why were they so afraid of death? They knew there was something wrong with her, and still sent people to kill her. Xiao Jin felt pity for the three spiritualists. It was not easy to cultivate them. The driver gradually woke up. He saw Xiao Jin, and his eyes were a little blank. "Miss, what happened?" "Xiao Jin, it's nothing. Drive a few minutes forward. I'm almost home." "Oh." The driver seemed to know nothing. After hearing this, he naturally drove the car forward. He did not even ask why he fainted. When he arrived at the Mu family, Mu Xiangshan was watering the flowers with a kettle. There was also the sound of mahjong in the room and a few women talking. When Mu Xiangshan saw Xiao Jin, his face immediately darkened. "Is there anything wrong with your mother? Now she even learned to play mahjong. A group of women who don't know anything but mahjong. Useless." "Xiao Jin, don't tell me. Tell Fei Fei." Mu Xiangshan. Then she would cry and complain to Mu Zhenming. At that time, it would be father and son blaming each other. Sure enough, he was ruthless. Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly and continued to water his flowers. Xiao Jin walked into the house. Xiao Fei and the others were playing mahjong in the hall. In his impression, Xiao Fei never played mahjong. Today, some friends probably came. After going in to take a look, he saw a few noble ladies. After all, Xiao Fei had only come into contact with such a group of noble ladies. The noble ladies were all young and had a good temperament, but Xiao Fei looked the youngest. This was not because she was gifted, but because Xiao Jin's array was very effective on her. Now, the more active she was, the better her complexion was. When she went in, she could even hear a lady playing cards while asking Xiao Fei what brand of condoms he was using recently. She was in such a good state that it made people envious. Xiao Fei smiled and was about to answer when they saw Xiao Jin return. "Jin." Xiao Fei shouted happily when she saw Xiao Jin. The other noblewomen turned their heads. When they saw Xiao Jin, their eyes flashed with surprise. He had heard that Xiao Fei's adopted daughter was quite pretty. He had not expected to see her in person. With this temperament, how many rich girls couldn't compare to her? Xiao Jin was raised by Xiao Fei in a small city. Did the Mu family really raise people? Is this Xiao Jin? She's so beautiful. Sure enough, she was raised by her mother. Look at her beautiful face. She really takes after her mother. Xiao Fei was very happy to hear everyone's praise. Chapter 366. Xiao Jin greeted them. Seeing that Xiao Fei had nothing to say, she went upstairs. Once she left, the others started to talk. "Xiao Fei, is your daughter a little talkative?" Xiao Fei only said, "A little." "Sigh, I don't know why, but she doesn't like to talk to people. She doesn't do it on purpose. She's just like that at home. Please don't mind her." "Of course not. I don't mind. She's really beautiful. Why don't I have your good fortune? Not only are my three sons so smart and handsome, but even my adopted daughter is so beautiful." Xiao Fei only smiled happily. They had never hidden the fact that Xiao Jin was adopted, so it was right for others to say that she was adopted. The woman in the late green Chong Sam's eyes flickered slightly. She asked, "Xiao Fei, is your daughter 20 years old?" Xiao Fei said, "Yes." She smiled and said, 20 years old is not young. She can try to date. My son is coming back from abroad. Do you want to let Xiao Jin meet my son? You know that my son is studying at Cambridge. His grades are excellent, and he's not bad looking. Why don't we let them meet?" Her sudden mention of this topic made Xiao Fei's smile freeze for a moment. "I don't think that's a good idea. Jin is only 20 years old," she rejected quickly. When the two rich ladies heard this, they looked at the woman in the late green Chong Sam suspiciously. Was she in such a hurry to find a wife for her son? Her son was so outstanding, but how could he not have a girlfriend? Xiao Jin was beautiful and had a good temperament. If it were them, they would also be tempted. But they had heard some rumors, but they were afraid that this woman did not know. If she knew, she would not have said such things. The woman in the late green Chong Sam was called Maruyan. She was Xiao Fei's best friend. The two of them had known each other for many years. Maruyan was able to marry her current husband because of Xiao Fei. At that time, Xiao Fei and Mu Zhenming were together. It was also at this time that Maruyan met the young talents in the same circle. She was quite capable and married one of them, who was her current husband. She did have a son, But in the 10 years that Xiao Fei and Mu Jinming were separated, Marian occasionally contacted Xiao Fei, but it was not much help. Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei was magnanimous and even kept in touch with her after she came back. Now that she heard that Maruyan wanted to date, Maruyan was unhappy. There is nothing wrong. If they like her, it's good. If they like her, it's good. Let them meet. Just let them meet. The other two noblewomen thought to themselves in their hearts. Maruyan had always curried favor with those in power and stepped on those in power. Only Xiao Fei was so stupid that she couldn't tell that her son was her own son. He was, after all, the young master of a wealthy family. Why would he call Xiao Fei's adopted daughter directly? Although she was Xiao Fei's daughter, she was just an adopted daughter. Would she really like her? She must have some ulterior motive. Of course, they would not say that out loud. They just watched the show happily. One of them said, Ruyan, your son is so outstanding. How come he still doesn't have a girlfriend? Maruyan immediately said, he said he doesn't have one. Am I not anxious? Of course, Xiao Fei, I don't mean anything. I just want the two of them to meet. Chapter 367. It'll be great if the two of them hit it off. Even if they don't, it's just a meeting. Xiao Fei hesitated when she heard Maruyan's words. She was embarrassed to reject her best friend, but she had never asked Xiao Jin. What if Xiao Jin got angry if she agreed? It would be hard to coax her if she got angry. Xiao Fei shook her head. Ruyan, I think the child is still too young. I'm not in a hurry, and neither is she. Besides, my children all have their own ideas. I'll ask her about this matter. Whether she agrees or not, that's her business. Maruyan knew that Xiao Fei would say that and smiled. Of course. I still have a photo of my son. Why don't we let her take a look at it before making a decision? She was very confident in her son's looks. As long as he showed it to young girls who like to look at handsome faces, they would definitely fall in love. She heard that Xiao Fei's daughter had just come to the capital not long ago. Other than her 3 brothers, she probably hadn't interacted with other young masters. Of course, she could only blame herself for going on a trip some time ago. She wasn't very clear about what was going on in the country. No one told her especially. After all, she didn't have any close friends. She took out her son's photo from her WeChat. Xiao Fei and the other two went over to take a look. He was indeed handsome. The boy in the photo was handsome. He smiled confidently at the camera and was dressed in branded clothes. It was obvious that he was the popular type. Wow, Ruyan's son is so big. He's so handsome. Yes, we haven't seen him for a long time. He's getting more and more handsome. Maruyan smiled in satisfaction at the two women's compliments. Xiao Fei also praised after seeing it. Not bad. But so what? There were a few handsome men in her family. Naturally, she felt that he was ordinary. Moreover, she felt that Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing were together every day. It wouldn't be easy for them to hit it off. Xiao Fei asked Maruyan to send the photo to herself. Then, she sent it to Xiao Jin. As this matter concerned her, Xiao Jin, who was in the room, heard it clearly. She was amused and speechless. She saw the photo sent by Xiao Fei and asked her how she felt. Xiao Jin replied coldly, Jin, today, I don't see her. I don't feel anything. Cruel and heartless. Xiao Fei was a little. Maruyan's smile was a little forced. You. Xiao Fei was a little unhappy. That's right. I already said that I would respect the child's opinion. If Jin doesn't want to go, what can I do? She spoke in a soft voice. Maruyan didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should say it or not. The other two people could tell that there was something wrong with Maruyan's eagerness. They were secretly happy. They would have more gossip to share when they went back. Since Xiao Jin didn't agree, this casual mention could only end in failure. At this moment, Song Yanqing texted Xiao Jin to relieve his boredom after work. Xiao Jin told Song Yanqing about what happened just now. Song Yanqing, he hadn't seen her for a day. How did things change so quickly? The handsome man in the office building couldn't help but frown. Chapter 368. Song Yanqing could only say, after all, he is an excellent boy. It is reasonable for Auntie to have these considerations. Powerful little friend. How is he excellent? Mayu Heavenly Palace is in decline. He is eager for sex and pretends to be fake. His academic problems are most likely faked. He also has a romantic debt. He will have an accident because of a woman. Song Yanqing. He looked at this paragraph, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised, overflowing with a chuckle. He was thinking too much. Children always looked at problems differently from him. He was really thinking too much. He thought that the hint he gave everyone was clear enough. Before there was progress, at least others would not be so tactless to say anything to the Mu family. Xiao Jin was just an adopted daughter, which also led many people to hesitate even if they thought she was excellent. However, it was also the best protection. At least not so many people would be enthusiastic about her. He typed a line of words, 20 years old. It is actually okay to fall in love. It was just that before he finished typing, Xiao Jin's faint eyes flashed in his heart. He saw the lack of desire in those eyes. He sighed slightly, deleted this sentence, and only typed, have a good rest. Powerful little friend. I met a spiritual reader who wanted to kill me this afternoon. Seeing this sentence, Song Yanqing got up and walked to the glass window. He called Xiao Jin with a slightly gloomy expression. What happened? Xiao Jin was not surprised to see him calling. She told what happened just now, and she also said lightly, it was a test, and they also underestimated me. I took the spiritual seeds of the three of them, and I didn't let them send the news back. The Feng family doesn't dare to guess if I did it for the time being. If she was the one who did it, killing 3 spiritual readers by herself and making them disappear without a trace was definitely not something that could be done by an ordinary person. The Feng family would be on tenterhooks. If they were bold, the ancestor would directly take action, or he would report to the people behind him. But this idea was really too scary. Xiao Jin was too young. They would think that there was someone protecting Xiao Jin behind her. But no matter what kind of guess it was not good for them. It was only a matter of time before the person behind the scenes showed up, unless he wanted to see the Feng family really be finished. Song Yanqing's voice was cold. Is it the Feng family? Xiao Jin said with certainty, it's the Feng family. The person who assassinated her would have karma, and the karma would be traced back to the Feng family. The Feng family was probably not going to be peaceful again, although they had not been peaceful during this period of time. But now, things were even more chaotic. Song Yanqing knew, and Xiao Jin knew that it was the Feng family, but they had no evidence. They could only use the method of a spiritual reader master to solve it. He exhaled softly. I understand. On the surface, it was not good to fall out with them, but in the dark, they had to secretly make a move to make the Feng family suffer a bit. In terms of spiritual sense, there was Xiao Jin. He was very good at business. Now that the Feng family was in chaos, what was the harm in making them more chaotic? Xiao Jin suddenly said another sentence, if possible, let your aunt divorce the person from the Feng family. If she doesn't want to, let that person leave as soon as possible. Her karma was too strong. In the end, the Feng family had caused so many deaths. They had done such a vicious thing like borrowing luck. When the time came, the revenge would be doubled. Even if they were innocent, they might be implicated. After all, they were in the Feng family, and they were blessed by the Feng family. After Song Yanqing heard it, it was rare for him to be silent. If ordinary people said so, it would be fine, but it was Xiao Jin who said it. Song Yanqing said, I will tell her. Chapter 369. It was not a good idea to ask others to divorce. To put it bluntly, it was destroying other people's marriage. To put it bluntly, his aunt had to explain. Song Yanqing couldn't tell her about Xiao Jin's matter. He didn't want Xiao Jin to be in any danger. However, he had his own way to tell his aunt. After hanging up the phone, Song Yanqing began to think about this matter. On the Feng family's side, it was not very calm. The old man with the birdcage was originally strolling on the street. When he received a call, he sat down on the side of the road with a gloomy face. The bird in the cage felt the terrible atmosphere around it at this time, and it didn't dare to make a sound. The old ancestor looked at the white sky with a strange smile at the corner of his mouth. He had done so many things and maintained the Feng family for so many years. Now this big family should prosper and multiply, and no one could stop it. He wanted to meet this girl in person. If it didn't work, he could only inform the other side. The other side wouldn't just watch the foundation of the arrangement be broken step by step. The old ancestor closed his eyes. Before this, he absolutely didn't believe in karma. He had the strength to be able to isolate such a thing. It was not karma. Now that strange things were happening in the Feng family one after another, he had to take it seriously. There were 4 juniors in the Feng family who had an accident. There were also people who kept having accidents in the business field. It couldn't be suppressed even if he wanted to. Even outsiders were wondering if the Feng family's luck had come to an end. Why did it fall step by step like it was cursed? The more glorious it was before, the more embarrassing it was now. And all of this was, since he saved the junior of the Feng family. What did she do? What did she do? Thinking of this, the old ancestor called the people in the family with a gloomy face. When Feng Fei he received a call from the people in the family, she was a little frightened. She hadn't been there for a while. Every time she went, she was inexplicably afraid of that strange place. Now that she was suddenly called over, she felt that it was not a good thing. Sixth uncle. In the luxurious car, she leaned on sixth uncle's shoulder, and her body trembled slightly. What does the old ancestor need to see me for? I don't know about that. The man she called sixth uncle was sitting beside her at this time, but his hands were on her buttocks, kneading from time to time. It could be imagined that the two of them had an improper relationship. He blew into Feng Fei's ear. Don't worry, sixth uncle is here. For my sake, great ancestor will not do anything to you. Feng Fei he held back her disgust. Seeing that the hand was getting more and more impudent, she couldn't help but feel sad. If it wasn't for their own lives, who would be willing to ruin themselves like this? Feng family. The Feng family was a man-eating demon's den. For an illegitimate daughter like her, if she didn't have any ability, she would be reduced to a plaything for this group of middlemen. When Feng Fei he was in trouble, if Azu didn't want to investigate the cause of the matter, he wouldn't have asked the great ancestor to save her. This sixth uncle was a very favored branch of the great ancestor's side. His status in the Feng family was very high, but it was also disgusting. The Feng family was used to the things they did. It was the kind that outsiders absolutely hated. He took a fancy to Feng Fei, and in exchange, the great ancestor didn't stop him. Thinking of this disgusting fact, Feng Fei really wanted to kill them sometimes, but she didn't have the ability. She closed her eyes and pretended that she didn't feel anything. Chapter 370. When they arrived, there was only a dark practice room. She knelt on the ground. She was a proud girl in school, but here, she was just a lowly person. Sixth uncle stood beside her and spoke to the void for her. Great ancestor, what do you want to tell Feihe this time? As soon as he finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared and slapped him in the face. Get out of here first. This voice contained a huge, murderous aura. It was obvious that he didn't put sixth uncle in his eyes. Sixth uncle was so scared that his whole body trembled. There was no longer a proud look on his face when he spoke for Feng Fei. He rolled and crawled out. He was all-powerful in the business world outside, but he was just a piece of trash here. When Feng Fei saw sixth uncle being slapped, she realized that something was wrong. She knelt on the ground in fear and didn't dare to raise her head. She could only feel a cold figure in the room. What on earth did you do? What else have you not told me about the matter back then? When Feng Fei heard this, her whole body froze. She did have things that she hadn't told him, such as the matter of her harming Xiao Jin. But at that time, Xiao Jin was just an unloved adopted daughter. Moreover, she felt that she didn't have the ability, so she didn't say this small matter. She had offended a lot of people, so much so that she could only vaguely say that she was targeting Xiao Jin, but she didn't say it in detail. She didn't expect to be caught and investigated now. She had a premonition that the great ancestor might want to know about this matter. Seeing her frightened face, the voice became more irritable. Are you forcing me to use the soul-searching array? If I use it, you will be a fool for the rest of your life. Think about it carefully. Feng Fei, he was so scared that she burst into tears. No, great ancestor, please don't. I'll say it. I'll say it. I did tell you almost everything back then. I don't dare to hide anything from you. I just some things, maybe it's been too long. I can't remember them clearly. That Xiao Jin. Yes, Xiao Jin. I didn't like her at that time, so I found a woman to deal with her. I got close to her, led her astray, and tricked her into taking drugs. That night, I was even going to find someone to take a video of her, but I didn't expect her to run away, so I didn't succeed. As for the rest, I really don't know anything else. There was really nothing left. I don't know what went wrong either. No, impossible. The great ancestor affirmed. Feng Fei, he could even hear his footsteps walking around. If that's the case, even if she awakens as a psychic because of anger, she can't have such a strong ability. What's the problem? Is there someone protecting her behind her back? No. The grand ancestor's murmur shocked Feng Fei he. She vaguely knew about spiritualists, but she had never thought that Xiao Jin would become a spiritualist. Is a spiritual reader a person with special abilities like the great ancestor? Then why is it Xiao Jin? Why can't it be me? Thinking of this, she was crazily jealous of Xiao Jin. There's something wrong with your memory. In that case, don't blame me for being impolite. The great ancestor's cold words came. Feng Fei, he only felt a chill in her heart. She had a feeling of complete regret, but nothing could be done. A sharp pain came from the top of her head. She closed her eyes. After that, she couldn't remember anything. Chapter 371. Did something happen to Feng Fei? What happened again? Early in the morning, such an unexpected topic appeared at the Mu family's dining table. As for the old man, he had already disappeared without a trace after breakfast. He most likely went for a walk. Muzichu spoke first and Muzilian asked, "What happened to her?" Xiao Fei was also very curious. What happened again? Mu Jinming's expression was a little serious. She went crazy. Crazy? Xiao Fei was a little surprised. How did she go crazy all of a sudden? Xiao Jin, who was eating his breakfast slowly, was focused on eating and did not care about these things. Muzilian was also shocked. He sat up straight and looked at his father. How did she go crazy? When did she go crazy? Why didn't I know? Xiao Fei, you dance every day. What do you know? Muzilian, this is too much. You didn't know at home either. Mu Jinming sighed. She was found on the street last night. It is said that she tore her clothes and went crazy. The passers-by found her and called the police. Her mother took her back and sent her abroad overnight. I'm afraid she won't come back for the rest of her life. After such a thing happened, even Feng Fei, his mother, did not have the face to let her come back. A family like theirs could be shameless, but when such a crazy thing happened, how could they tolerate it and not let others talk about it? Muzilian was a little confused. How did she go crazy just like that? Wasn't she fine a while ago? There were no signs at all. Or is she usually mentally ill? Anyway, I think so. Xiao Fei was also a little regretful. It's a pity that she's a girl. How did she go crazy at such a young age? Muzilian looked at Xiao Jin. Look at Xiao Jin. What's so strange about going crazy at such a young age? Didn't she go crazy for a while too? Fortunately, she did not run to the street and tear her clothes. Muzichu picked up a sandwich and stuffed Muzilian's mouth. Shut up. Muzilian angrily took a bite of the sandwich. Brother, aren't you glad now? Back then, Feng Fei's parents came to our house to force us to get married. Now, she's gone crazy, and you don't have to worry anymore. Muzichu just glanced at him and didn't say anything. Xiao Jin focused on finishing his breakfast. When he wiped his mouth with a tissue, he said, "She's just going abroad. How do you know that she won't come back after she's cured?" I'm already crazy. How is that possible? After causing such a huge commotion, even if I recovered, I wouldn't have the face to come back. Xiao Jin smiled mysteriously. That's why your skin isn't thick enough. Muzilian. What was the meaning of this? Mu Jinming frowned and pondered. Xiao Jin. What do you mean by that? Xiao Jin. Nothing. I'm just talking nonsense. Muzilian shouted. See, I told you. She's definitely not normal. I suggest you send her to the hospital for another checkup. She's so weird every day. Xiao Fei. Shut up. How can you talk about your sister like that? Are you even human? Musichu. He's not human. Musilian. Fine. You guys attack me together. Just you wait. In this family, it's either her or me. It's either me or her, Mu Jinming. If you don't apologize to your sister, you won't have any pocket money this year. Xiao Jin. Apologize. Musilian. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Xiao Jin nodded. I don't want to forgive you for the time being. With that, he left. Mu Jinming also wiped the corner of his mouth. There's no pocket money this month. Musilian. She's really not human. Chapter 372. The news that Feng Fei he suddenly went crazy still caused a stir in the upper-class society for a while. Her parents also left Huaxia and probably would not return to Huaxia in their lifetime. If they were thick-skinned, it was said that Feng Fei he was even photographed in disheveled clothes at that time. If it were not suppressed quickly, it would probably become another embarrassing thing for the Feng family. Recently, Xiao Jin's fortune-telling shop was doing well. Although the price was expensive, there were many fortune tellers. However, most of them were asking about marriage or small things. If Xiao Jin was accurate, others were willing to spend the money. Gradually, she became more and more famous, and the number of fans on Weibo had increased to 1 million. However, she never revealed her information, so no one knew whether she was a man or a woman. After a rough calculation, the shop was doing well, and she had earned tens of thousands. These tens of thousands were really nothing to the Mu family, but the premise was that Xiao Jin never took the Mu family's money. Basically, she had never touched the pocket money that Xiao Fei gave her. When she took out the tens of thousands, Xiao Jin was in a good mood. She thought that Song Yanqing had treated her to several meals, and this time it was her turn to treat him. Before she sent a message to Song Yanqing, a special business came to the shop. The other party directly chose the most expensive set meal, which was 99999. Looking for a fortune teller on the internet at this price, he was probably introduced by an acquaintance. The other party only gave a name and birthday. Obviously, he was familiar with Xiao Jin's rules. Xiao Jin looked at the name and birthday, was a little surprised, and then directly replied, "Today, no need. She won't live long." The other party was not in a hurry to reply. After a long time, he slowly sent a sentence. Is there no chance to save her? This fortune teller was a little strange. His fate line was very strange. Xiao Jin saw a mess through the array. She probably needed to see the real person to confirm some information. Today, basically no. Anonymous buyer. Thank you. Today, you don't have to be so expensive. I'll refund you the money. Just give me a normal price. Anonymous buyer. It's okay. This money is nothing. Although the result was not very good, rich people were quite capricious. Xiao Jin just shook her head. She was only doing her job as a fortune teller. There was no need for her to look at the other party. It was true that he didn't have long to live. He was quite polite. She took out her phone and sent a message to Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing made an appointment with her at night. The restaurant this time was the Japanese restaurant she had eaten at last time. She could afford the price of a meal, but she did not expect to meet Fanjin and Phoenix Qianin. There were private rooms in the Japanese restaurant, but when the waiter took Xiao Jin to the private room, they passed by a private room and the door was not closed. She saw Fanjin and Phoenix Grace sitting inside. Phoenix Grace also saw Xiao Jin. It only took a glance to notice Xiao Jin. Phoenix Qianin saw her, but did not greet her. Xiao Jin obviously didn't need to greet him. He just turned his head and let the waiter lead him to the private room. Fanjin, on the other hand, also saw Xiao Jin and was stunned for a moment. Hey! Phoenix Grace smiled and looked at her. Sister, what's wrong? Fanjin said, I think I saw that girl in the coffee shop last time. Because she had a very unique temperament, she had a deep impression. She had not forgotten until now. Is that so? Phoenix Qianin just smiled lightly. Sister's memory is really good. Chapter 373. It's because she's too beautiful. It's unforgettable. Fanjin sighed. At this moment, two more people passed by outside. Led by the waiter, Fanjin turned around and her smile instantly froze. The person in her memory appeared again. She really couldn't describe how she felt in her heart. Although she had been traveling and relaxing during this period of time, her mood had improved a lot. Only now did she know that as long as she saw this person again, her mood would become very, very bad. The other party was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. He had an imposing appearance and the elite aura of a mature man. A pair of silver-white thin-rimmed glasses rested on the bridge of his nose. He had an ascetic and calm aura. He wasn't alone. There was a beautiful woman in a limited edition dress holding his hand. She was noble, elegant, and generous. She looked very compatible with him. Perhaps Fanjin's existence was very abrupt. When the other party turned around and saw her, his expression froze for a moment. This absent-mindedness was only for a moment. He quickly looked away as if nothing had happened and walked forward with the woman. Feng Qianan noticed Fanjin's ugly expression. He also saw the man in a suit passing by. His eyes immediately lowered slightly. There was some doubt in his voice. "Sister?" Fanjin was brought back to her senses by his call. She was only a little stunned. "Yes," Feng Qianan smiled. "Do you know the man just now?" Fanjin subconsciously denied. "No, I don't know him." She denied it too quickly, but it was easy to hear the problem. Her expression was very gloomy now. It was visible to the naked eye. How stupid would Feng Qianan be to believe that they didn't know each other? Of course, he wouldn't ask. He only thought of the man just now. His eyes were slightly gloomy, but he quickly covered it up. Xiao Jin was sitting in the private room next to them. Although it was completely soundproof, her spiritual perception was special. She could hear the movements next door if she wanted to. In addition, the door of the private room was not completely closed. She also saw Jiang Chunji. Of course, she didn't know Jiang Chunji, but Fanjin had asked her to read her fortune. She could recognize this person when she saw him. Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect to meet in this shop. It was really fate. Xiao Jin arrived early. By the time Song Yanqing arrived, Phoenix Qianan had already closed the door to the private room. Song Yanqing did not know that his cousin was also here. When he arrived at the private room, he saw Xiao Jin sitting there and smiled gently. "I'm a little late for the meeting. If you're hungry, you can eat first." "I'm fine." Xiao Jin looked at her phone for a while. She passed the time quite quickly. When Song Yanqing arrived, the chef came in to prepare the dishes for the two of them on the spot. "Did you make money by treating me to a meal?" "I've never heard of you working part-time. How did you earn so much money?" Song Yanqing was just curious. Xiao Jin didn't hide it from her. "I opened a fortune-telling shop online and made some money." She even showed Song Yanqing her fortune-telling shop. Chef. Never would he have thought that such a beautiful young lady would actually become a fortune-teller and deceive others. Nowadays, the things on the internet that could be used for fortune-telling were definitely fake. This was the opinion of a chef who worked in a luxurious Japanese restaurant. With outsiders around, Song Yanqing didn't ask much. She just smiled. "You really know how to think of a way." "Xiao Jin, as she answered. Song Yanqing suddenly frowned and his face paled visibly. Xiao Jin immediately asked, "What's wrong with you?" Song Yanqing shook her head. "Nothing." She just suddenly felt her heart palpitate and was extremely uncomfortable. Chapter 374. Xiao Jin noticed that there was a black gas floating on Song Yanqing's forehead. He was with her now, so there shouldn't be any accidents. There was still a death aura on his body because the disaster hadn't passed yet. His body was still weak, but he was much better than before. Why was there a fluctuation in his death aura? Xiao Jin directly reached out and touched Song Yanqing's forehead. It was warm and a little hot. She said, "You have a fever." Song Yanqing said, "I often have this. I'll be fine after a while." His body wasn't very good. This kind of low fever from time to time was just a small symptom. Xiao Jin said, "Something's not right." She sensed an unusual aura. That aura came from outside the door. She stood up and walked over to open the door, just in time to see two people appear in the private room. Two men. The two men were also very tall and looked somewhat similar. They should be twins and looked handsome. But one of them was wearing a mask and covered himself tightly. He coughed from time to time and looked more fragile than Song Yanqing. The person next to him whispered, "I said, if you want to eat, you can ask the chef to cook at home." The voice was clear and sounded very young. The other person's voice was a little weak. "I just wanted to come out and walk around." After he said this, the man who spoke earlier frowned. A trace of heartache and guilt flashed across his face. In the end, it was not easy to say. They noticed that Xiao Jin suddenly opened the door and were a little surprised. The man wearing a mask subconsciously avoided Xiao Jin's face. He even tried hard to look at the ground and didn't dare to raise his head. Through the edge of his nose that wasn't covered tightly, Xiao Jin saw a certain black mark on the skin of his face. It didn't look like normal skin. Song Yanqing was just about to ask Xiao Jin why he opened the door when he heard the noise. He stood up and came to the door. When he saw the person, he was a little surprised. Sunan? Sushio? Xiao Jin thought that people were really casual with their names these days. But when she heard the name, she still raised her eyebrows. The two boys were surprised to see Song Yanqing. They stood there hesitantly. Brother Yanqing? Lightmouth was quite familiar with him. He probably had a good relationship with Song Yanqing. After being surprised, Song Yanqing's expression returned to normal. He nodded slightly. Coming out to eat? One of the boys who wasn't wearing a mask nodded. Yes, Brother Yanqing. I didn't expect you to be here. As he spoke, he looked at Xiao Jin, who was beside Song Yanqing, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. She probably didn't expect Song Yanqing to have a girl by his side. It seemed that the rumors were true. Xiao Jin stood there quietly without taking the initiative to speak. Song Yanqing introduced them to her. This is Su Nan and Su Xiao. He then turned to the two brothers and said, "This is Xiao Jin." He did not introduce his background, only his name. The two brothers nodded, but one of them still had his head down, as if he didn't want to look at others. When Song Yanqing saw him, a trace of deep thought flashed through his eyes. "Then you guys eat slowly." "Okay." The one who answered was still the boy without a mask. It wasn't until Song Yanqing brought Xiao Jin into the private room and closed the door that Xiao Jin asked with a smile, "Were those twins just now?" Song Yanqing nodded. He seemed to be hesitating. Before he could speak, Xiao Jin suddenly said, "The death aura on his body is really similar to yours. No wonder you feel uncomfortable." Song Yanqing looked at her with a little surprise. "You noticed?" Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. "Of course." Chapter 375. The following topic was obviously not suitable for others to hear, so Song Yanqing asked the chef to leave. The chef only made 2 simple dishes for them and left the rest to him in the kitchen. Although the chef was a little surprised, he was very wise not to disturb them. After Xiao Jin sat down, he said, "Some things are really unpredictable. When I came out in the morning, a very generous customer came to my fortune-telling spot and gave me Sushio's information." Sushio is the boy with the mask just now, right? The business she received in the morning was about Sushio. When she read his fate, she saw that he would not live long. The fortune-teller should be his brother, Su Nan. Looking at Song Yanqing's expression, it was obvious that he knew something. Sure enough, when Xiao Jin said this, Song Yanqing said, "What a coincidence." Although he said this, his expression was a little serious. Sushio had an accident when he was young and his body has some problems. Even if you don't know, I was planning to ask you after a while. I didn't feel it before, but after I became a spirit master, I could feel many things that I couldn't before. I saw a special aura on Sushio's body. Someone put a formation on him. You can basically see it as a curse. Xiao Jin directly told him about Sushio's situation. Evil spirit array. He won't live long. Song Yanqing paused. Won't live long? Xiao Jin nodded. Yes, this formation is very vicious. If it wasn't a fatal hatred, it's hard to imagine that it would be used on a child. The formation on his body has been maintained for more than 10 years. Song Yanqing nodded and sighed. What's an evil spirit array? Xiao Jin thought for a moment and said, I told you about the formation points before. In fact, every formation master can see different formation points. Sorcerers also had powerful abilities, such as spatial teleportation and even time reversal. Sorcerers did have these abilities as well. It's just that wizards have a single but powerful ability. A spell formation master is a hybrid version of a magus. They can have multiple abilities at the same time, but these abilities are also released through the use of spell formations. Some array masters can only see ordinary array points in their entire lives. For example, the most common natural array points are the natural abilities of magi. Elements like metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, lightning, and rain can be used on you to change your life chart. This includes curse array points, time array points, and space array points. There are very few array masters who can find these array points. These array points basically only exist in places like mausoleums or mass graves, or places that are difficult for humans to reach. The evil ghost formation is a type of curse formation. The person who casts the curse will use their life as the price to seal the evil ghost on the person in the formation, causing the person's face to fester and become as ugly as the evil ghost. From the day the formation was set up, the person will not live for more than 20 years. The evil part of this formation is not the death, but the continuous torture for 20 years, as well as the psychological pressure on the person. Basically, the person in the formation will not be able to last for more than 20 years. The price is also very high, basically using their own life as the price. That's why I say, how much hatred does someone have for him to use such a formation on him? Song Yanqing listened to Xiao Jin's explanation, and his expression became more serious. Su Xiu was only 3 years old. Who could he have offended? Chapter 376. How could a 3-year-old child be hated to this extent? If it was the fault of someone in the clan, then why was it Su Xiu? Xiao Jin took a sip of tea. I'm not too sure either. The evil spirit array is still very difficult to break. Even if it was her, it would be very difficult for her to see the cause and effect of someone else's life. Song Yanqing grasped the main point. Is there a way to break it? Xiao Jin nodded. We just need to find the grave of the person who placed the curse. The source of the array point can only exist on the person who placed the curse. If the person who placed the curse is dead, then it will be on his corpse. We have to find the grave. Song Yanqing suddenly sighed. Is there a price to pay to save him? Xiao Jin said, of course, but it also depends on the situation. I can't see any sins on his body, which means that the person who placed the curse on him is not protected by karma. As long as we can find the grave, it's not impossible to save him. Of course, since Song Yanqing had said this, Xiao Jin understood. She raised her eyebrows. You want me to save him? Song Yanqing thought for a while. His cold voice was calm. If it's bad for you, I won't trouble you for no reason. At this point, Xiao Jin also understood that if he wanted to cause trouble for Xiao Jin, he would not ask Xiao Jin for help. There were some things that had to be prioritized. He knew that Xiao Jin greatly avoided karma, so he naturally would not let trouble find Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin said, it's not impossible. Saving someone who was not protected by karma would not be troublesome. Even if the person who placed the curse hates him so much, it would probably be difficult to find his grave. It was possible that he had died in the wilderness without a complete corpse, making it impossible for people to break the array. This meant that he hated the other party. Song Yanqing said, is it possible that the person who placed this array is still alive? Xiao Jin said, no, the other party is already dead. I can see that, but I can't find where he died. Song Yanqing nodded and did not ask any more questions. He would deal with the following matters. Xiao Jin said that saving him was the limit. She could not take the initiative to find Su Xiu and tell him that he could still be saved. Song Yanqing would tell the other party. Whether he believed it or not, whether he wanted to save him or not, that was their business. After the meal, Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin, they just happened to meet Jiang Qinji and his fiancée. When the other party saw Song Yanqing, he was slightly surprised. President Song? Song Yanqing saw the other party, and a faint smile appeared between his eyebrows. Mr. Ji Nuo? It seemed that Jiang Chunji did not expect to meet Song Yanqing here. Although the other party was much younger than him, his status could not be underestimated. Even though Jiang Chunji was now in a high position, he took the initiative to reach out his hand and said politely, "I didn't expect Mr. Song to also have a meal here." Last time, the cooperation was interrupted halfway by an accident, which was a little regrettable. I wonder when you have time to discuss it with me again? Song Yanqing still had a smile on his lips, but if one looked carefully, one would see a faint alienation in his eyes. Mr. Ji Nuo, you are too polite. I am now on a private trip, and the work will be arranged by my secretary. Just follow the plan. If there is a chance for cooperation, this time will not be short. Jiang Qinji immediately realized that Song Yanqing did not like to talk about business in this kind of occasion. He immediately nodded. Sorry for being rude. His eyes swept to Qiao Jin, but his eyes were much calmer. But when his fiancée beside him saw Song Yanqing, she obviously showed a stunned expression. Chapter 377. Jiang Chunji and Song Yanqing knew each other? Qiao Jin didn't expect it, but the capital was only so big. It didn't seem surprising that there was cooperation in the business field. It also proved how big the Song family's business was. Jiang Chunji was the CEO of a multinational consortium. When he saw Song Yanqing, he also politely wanted to talk about cooperation. "Hello, Mr. Song." The beautiful fiancée beside him also stretched out her hand with a perfect smile on her lips. Her posture was confident and generous. At first glance, it was obvious that she was a noble young lady raised in a rich environment. Song Yanqing glanced at her outstretched hand and didn't move. He smiled and said, "Sorry, I don't shake hands with people because of my health. Miss Qin, I'm really sorry." The woman who was called Miss Qin didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, she was flattered. "So Mr. Song knows me?" Song Yanqing said in an official tone. Mr. Ji Nuo's fiancée is Miss Qin, the heir of the Fran Group. This is known to all. If Mr. Ji Nuo is holding someone else, Miss Qin glanced at Jiang Qinji and revealed a shy smile. Of course, he wouldn't dare. Jiang Qinji just smiled faintly. Qiao Jin, who was beside Song Yanqing, was so quiet that it was as if he didn't exist. Of course, she was too lazy to listen when she saw Song Yanqing talking to business people. Song Yanqing was about to find an excuse to leave when the door next to him opened again. A clear and bright voice with a hint of sweetness said, "Sister, a new car has just come out recently. I like it very much. Can you accompany me to see if you want to buy?" Before he finished speaking, Feng Qian saw Song Yanqing. His smile suddenly faded a little. The reason why he hid it was because he saw Jiang Chunji opposite Song Yanqing. Fan Jin and Feng Qian walked out and saw the people in the corridor. They were stunned again. If it was in the past, her emotions would definitely fluctuate. But now, her years of acting experience forced her to calm down. She was also distracted by Song Yanqing and Qiao Jin. Good-looking people could really ease one's mind. When Fan Jin saw Song Yanqing, she was really surprised. She had never seen such a good-looking Asian man in her life. It was truly an indescribable beauty. What was even rarer was that the other party had a noble aura. With one look, one could tell that he was a young master raised by a wealthy family. There was a kind of grace and elegance that ordinary people could not possess. She was simply a peerless beauty. When he stood next to Qiao Jin, they were simply a pair of good-looking beauties. Fan Jin liked to compare people with celebrities in the entertainment industry. If these two were to debut, many people would go crazy. She could not help but sigh. "Cousin, you're here too?" Fortunately, she was distracted and only reacted when she heard Feng Qian speak. "Cousin?" She was a little surprised. She never thought that such a beautiful and noble man in front of her was Feng Qian's cousin. "Yes, my cousin." Phoenix Grace smiled and greeted Qiao Jin. "Hi, Miss Jiao." Of course, Qiao Jin nodded politely and coldly. Fan Jin was even more surprised. "You know her?" She had mentioned this girl twice in front of Feng Qian, but she had never heard Feng Qianan say that he knew Xiao Jin. Feng Qianan looked at Fan Jin with an innocent expression. You didn't ask. Miss Qiao is my cousin's good friend. In fact, I've only seen her twice. While they were talking, Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing both noticed that Jiang Chenji's face stiffened when he looked at Fan Jin. Chapter 378. Song Yanqing immediately sensed something. Jiang Chen knew Fan Jin, and Fan Jin was the girl his cousin, Feng Qianan, was pursuing. He knew what was going on, but he didn't say anything. He only smiled at Feng Qianan. I didn't expect you to be here. Miss Qin looked at Feng Qianan and greeted him politely. Is this Mr. Song's cousin? Song Yanqing only responded out of social etiquette. Yes. There was no need to introduce him. Feng Qianan didn't have any contact with them. Feng Qianan ignored her and introduced Fan Jin with a smile. Cousin, Miss Qiao, this is my friend, Fan Jin. He said they were friends, but he usually called her sister. Xiao Jin nodded again. How annoying. She didn't like social etiquette. Although she had a good impression of Fan Jin, she didn't want to talk in front of so many people. When Song Yanqing spoke, her voice was a bit lazy. I want to go back. Song Yanqing didn't finish speaking to Feng Qianan and immediately changed the topic. Then let's go back. His expression was gentle and his voice carried a trace of gentle doting. Others could see the difference. Feng Qianan. Heh. His cousin wasn't the same as before. Fan Jin was surprised by the relationship between Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin. Feng Qianan had only said that she was a friend, not a girlfriend. If she wasn't a girlfriend, why did it feel strange? Song Yanqing smiled apologetically at everyone and left with Xiao Jin. The atmosphere between the remaining two groups was strange. Feng Qianan didn't even have the mood to pay attention to them. As soon as Song Yanqing left, he left with Fan Jin without hesitation. He didn't say anything to Jiang Chun and the others. Miss Qin's smile froze for a moment. Mr. Song's cousin doesn't seem very polite. She was slightly dissatisfied. Jiang Chunji said indifferently, he's young and I've never seen you before. He doesn't know how to deal with people, so it's normal for him to be rude. There are many young masters like him in the capital. Miss Qin was a little curious. I think I know the woman beside him. Is she a female celebrity? Jiang Chunji's heart skipped a beat, and his tone was very cold. I don't know him. Miss Qin replied with an oh and then sneered. These female stars are all like this. They like to cling on to these rich young masters and think that they can marry into a rich family, but most of these young masters are just playing with them. I've seen a lot of this. There are many women outside who won't let go of my brother. Kino, I don't care about others, but if you dare to mess around outside, I won't let you off. Don't forget that you relied on me to get to where you are today. When we get married, the control of China will be yours. You have to treat me well. I don't want to see anything bad happen. You will guarantee it, right? She leaned on Jiang Chunji's shoulder with a sweet expression, but there was no smile in her eyes. Of course, she didn't notice that as she spoke, Jiang Chunji's expression became colder and colder. After she finished speaking, he responded coldly. Okay, I won't. He watched Fan Jin and Feng Qianan leave. He thought to himself, she has been in the circle for so many years, but she still can't keep her heart. After all, she is young and has a high status. Did the current her also know how to climb up the ladder? He lowered his eyes, and with a coldness that others couldn't detect, he left with his fiancée. Chapter 379. Song Yanqing sent Xiao Jin home and told him about the dormitory. He would send someone to investigate. If anything happened, he would inform Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin agreed. When she got home, she saw Xiao Fei rushing over in a hurry. Something big has happened. Xiao Jin said calmly, Fei, you can call me if you need anything. You don't have to wait for me to come back. Xiao Fei was stunned for a moment before she reacted. Her expression wasn't good. It's too sudden. Mom didn't expect it. It's really something big. Musilian suddenly jumped out of the house. Mom asked me to tell her. I'll give her a bolt out of the blue. Xiao Fei, before she could stop her son, Mu Qi quickly said. Something happened at the Ji family. Ji Fanjung and his mother got into a car accident. It wasn't a big problem, but for some reason, the medical staff found out that his mother wasn't related to him by blood. In other words, the fact that Ji Fanjing wasn't her biological son was exposed. Grandfather Ji's family is in a mess now. Xiao Jin, wow. She really didn't expect it. Her intuition told her that the Ji family was going to make trouble for her. In the end, it happened much earlier than she expected. Xiao Fei screamed, "Can't you be more reserved? Can't you consider whether your sister can take it or not?" Muzillion was confused. What does the Ji family's accident have to do with her? Look at her expression. It's as if she's watching the gossip. Xiao Fei was very anxious. She grabbed Xiao Jin's hand and said helplessly, "It's over, it's over. Jian, now that they know that Ji Fanjing isn't her biological son, what if she tells them about you? Are you going to be brought back by the Ji family? What if they mistreat you because of Ji Fanjing? What if she hates you because of this?" As she spoke, her eyes turned red. She was about to cry. Xiao Jin, Muzillion. At some point, Xiao Fei's imagination had broken through the sky. Muzillion was stunned. "Mom, aren't you thinking too much?" Now, only the fact that Ji Fanjing is not her biological son has been exposed. However, Ji Fanjing is indeed Uncle Xiao Jin's biological son. There is no need for them to find Xiao Jin, right? Xiao Fei said, "What do you know? Ji Fanjing isn't her biological son. If Ji Qiue gets angry, the Ji family doesn't like her to begin with. She doesn't feel safe. What if she really reveals Xiao Jin?" Muzillion. "Oh, that's possible. If Ji Qiue wanted to divorce her because of this, she might tell him about Xiao Jin to protect herself. He might even be able to go back to the Ji family to fight for some property. If she wanted to be wary of Xiao Jin, it was under the condition that Ji Fanjing wasn't exposed. Now that Ji Fanjing was exposed, it didn't seem like there was any use for her to be wary of Xiao Jin." Xiao Jin's voice was clear. "It's okay. I won't go back." Xiao Fei's imagination was still going wild. "They will sue you and force you to go back. You're so beautiful now. They might force you to go back for a marriage alliance. They want you to marry someone who doesn't like you and has an affair." Muzillion. His mother's imagination was amazing. For a moment, he really wanted to see such a thing happen. Xiao Jin's expression was serious. Watch less TV dramas and novels in the future. A normal person's brain had become abnormal. Xiao Fei. Sob, sob, sob. They didn't even understand why he was being treated so unfairly. Now that he suddenly saw the master's reply, Su Nan was surprised and pleasantly surprised. Could it be that the master saw his fate and felt that there was a turning point? However, he frowned when he saw the master's question. He actually didn't know how to answer. If he answered too much, it would reveal his privacy. However, in his memory, his parents were peaceful people. They didn't offend anyone. Did the master know what was wrong with Sushio? Anonymous buyer. Do you know what the problem is? Chapter 382. Today. Yes, but if you don't tell me clearly, it will be difficult for me to diagnose and determine whether he can be saved or not. Anonymous buyer. Hello. It's not that I'm worried about revealing my privacy, but according to your question, there are only my parents and my brothers in my family. We have very few relatives. My parents are peaceful and have never offended anyone, so it's difficult to answer this question. Today, it seems that you don't know. Su Nan was stunned. Why did the fortune teller sound so sure that his family had offended someone? But who did they offend? How did they do it? They had never thought that Su Xiu had offended anyone. They had gone to countless doctors, but all of them said that it was a medical problem and they were helpless. It looked like he had been poisoned when he was young, but they couldn't treat him. It wasn't until later that they found some acquaintances who introduced them to a master. They didn't believe it at first, But the master said that there was no way to save Su Xiao, which made them feel even more desperate. Sunan didn't know what he could do. Su Xiao was his twin brother. They were fine when they were young, but everything changed when they were 3 years old. The master didn't send any more messages. Sunan hesitated for a while and asked his parents, "Dad, Mom, I want to ask if our family has offended anyone?" His parents were also at a loss. Who could we have offended? They had been gentle people all their lives. The whole capital knew that. Even Sunan's father was a good person. How could they have offended anyone? Sunan's mother was puzzled. "Why do you ask?" Sunan thought for a while and told them, "I found a fortune teller on the internet. He said that it's possible that our family has offended someone." "Why did you find a fortune teller on the internet?" "Those are all liars." Sunan's mother's face changed. She didn't believe the things on the internet at all. The fortune teller we find is guaranteed. If a fortune teller on the internet like you is so accurate, why would you be a fortune teller on the internet? Do you know how much a fortune teller costs? How much did you spend on fortune telling on the internet? Sunan said, 100,000. It's not a small amount, but that's his most expensive price. This fortune teller usually only costs 1,000. Sunan's mother said, "You've been cheated. How can it be so cheap?" Sunan, he felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Father Su also frowned. "Sunan, I know you want to help your brother, but we have already found many ways to help him. You should spend more time with your brother." When he said this, his voice was choked with grief. He was only in his 40s, and a portion of his hair had already turned white from worrying about his youngest son's affairs. This only served to reflect his sorrow. As long as there was a way, who would let their son become like this? While they were talking, a slender figure wearing a mask was standing at the top of the stairs. He looked at them quietly, a pair of beautiful eyes under his long eyelashes. The corners of his mouth twitched, but he didn't know what to say. When a person was about to die, they would have a feeling. He had already sensed that his days were numbered. He saw his brother's frustration and helplessness. He also knew that his family had already thought of many ways for him. They had even thought of such a charlatan method. However, there was no cure for his illness. There was no one to blame but fate. Chapter 383. Anonymous Buyer. "I'm sorry, Master. There is really no problem." Xiao Jin was not surprised to see his answer. If they really couldn't find the reason, there was nothing they could do. If they took the initiative to cast the tactical matrix to find the person who put the curse on the Su Xiao, they could do it, but they would be involved in the karma of life and death. No matter what the reason was, this kind of tactical matrix made by hatred itself carried malice, and it could not be removed by others. The reason why she took the initiative to ask was because of Song Yanqing. If they couldn't find it, there was nothing they could do. She fell asleep, but suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. She opened her eyes and sat up from the bed. She felt something special and went to Song Yanqing. There was something dangerous. Song Yanqing was not ordinary to her now. Of course, she went straight to the Song family. It was just that it was inconvenient to do it in the middle of the night. She cast a tactical matrix and directly moved from the Mu family to the Song family's yard. She used a magic spirit seed. Ordinary. She went directly to the balcony of the Song family. As soon as she looked up, she saw Song Yanqing standing in the dark, wearing a black silk pajamas, looking down the stage with clear eyes. Suddenly seeing Xiao Jin appear, he was not surprised at all. He just smiled gently and said, "Why are you here?" Xiao Jin did not answer, and his eyes fell on the swimming pool. There was a body in the swimming pool, turned over and facing down. It was obvious that the body was cold. Ordinary people would be scared out of their wits, but the Song family was quiet and did not move at all. Xiao Jin looked up and asked him, "Where is Yi?" Song Yanqing replied with a smile, "I put him to sleep." After saying this, he waved to Xiao Jin with a gentle look. "Come up. It's cold outside." Xiao Jin was only wearing a thin nightdress. Although it was summer, the night was a little cold. Xiao Jin frowned. Yes, he was now a spiritual speaker. He could make Yi not find out about this. The corpse in the swimming pool was not an ordinary person. It was an array master. Although he looked ordinary, there were no signs of him struggling before he died. It was obvious that he had died silently. Generally, array masters would not be so stupid as to directly enter someone else's territory to set up an array. They could completely control the array from afar. So, Song Yanqing directly used his ability to force the other party to come over. His ability was improving faster than she had imagined. She only asked him, "How did you do it?" Song Yanqing, "Huh? If you don't come up, I'm going down." Xiao Jin continued, "How did you do it?" Song Yanqing seemed a little puzzled. "What's wrong? I'm a spiritualist of speech. Is it strange that I can do this?" Xiao Jin was silent for a moment. Chapter 384. Come up here. He still said the same thing calmly. Xiao Jin said, "No, I want to go back." Since he was not in danger, there was no point for her to stay here. Song Yanqing's expression froze for a moment. In the night, his expression could not be seen clearly. Hidden in the darkness, the surroundings were a little cold. Wait a minute. After he said this, he turned around and went into the room. When he came down again, Xiao Jin saw him holding a nightgown. It was a long black one. It looked like the one he was wearing. He took it and put it on Xiao Jin. "This is new. I haven't worn it before." He looked down at her. "Don't you want to know where this person came from?" Xiao Jin let him put the nightgown on her. She looked at the clear swimming pool and said, "I know where he came from. I told you just now." After a pause, she said, "It's someone from abroad." She guessed that the people from the He Early family had probably arrived, although she did not know why their first target was to attack Song Yanqing. Could it be that the exchange of fate was related to the He Early family? Song Yanqing tied the belt of the nightgown for her. Seeing that she did not object and was unusually obedient, he felt a little satisfied. "It's Joanna's people." His words were shocking. Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. "You know the He Early family?" Song Yanqing stepped back and looked at her. His expression was very calm. "I didn't know before, but now I know. The He Early family has a partnership with us. I've seen Joanna a few times. Now I know what kind of existence they are." Xiao Jin suddenly understood. She was not surprised. The He Early family was not only a family of spiritual readers. On the surface, they were also prominent. It was not strange that they knew Song Yanqing. Xiao Jin was thinking, "Why did this formation master attack you?" Song Yanqing said softly, "I don't know. We can talk inside." Xiao Jin hesitated for a moment, but did not refuse. She could learn some things about the Hurley family from Song Yanqing, as well as the suspicious points just now. She just didn't want to ask. Now that Song Yanqing wanted to say it, she was all ears. She actually had a question that she didn't ask. When she came, she felt a bit of the Rakshasa realm's aura, as if the devil had just left. Clearly, the Rakshasa realm was still pestering Song Yanqing. In the room, Xiao Jin sat down. Song Yanqing poured her a glass of water. Atong was sleeping soundly. He would only wake up when Song Yanqing was willing. Xiao Jin held a glass of water while Song Yanqing sat opposite her and told her what had happened. In the middle of the night, Song Yanqing felt danger, so he woke up from his sleep. In fact, he did not do anything. He just materialized this feeling of danger and used the spiritual reader's ability to find the person behind the danger. It was Information Master. Information Master who wanted to kill him for some unknown reason. The other party used an ordinary Formation Master, but it could cause great harm to Song Yanqing. When Xiao Jin heard this, she asked a question. "How did he come here?" Song Yanqing smiled and said, "I wanted him to appear, and he appeared. Well, it was as if he sensed my presence. He appeared in the courtyard directly. He looked more surprised than me." Of course, he would be more surprised than Song Yanqing. A spiritual reader's ability was to materialize anything and turn the impossible into the possible. According to Xiao Jin's thoughts, this Formation Master should have been influenced by Song Yanqing and forced to come here. Chapter 385. However, according to what Song Yanqing said, the other party had suddenly appeared. In other words, Song Yanqing's ability had begun to cross space. It was very terrifying for a person who had just awakened his ability to forcefully pull someone from afar over. Xiao Jin did not have a deep understanding of spirit speakers. She only vaguely remembered that one person was a spirit speaker. She was just a little surprised by Song Yanqing's ability's rapid improvement. An ordinary array master could already cross space. Then, in time, the person who changed his fate might appear automatically. Xiao Jin thought about it and asked him, "Have you ever used your ability to think about the person who changed your fate?" Song Yanqing nodded. "I have. He is now stronger than me, so I feel a resistance when I use my ability." Since there was resistance, he wouldn't continue. Xiao Jin just looked at him quietly. In such a bright light, his expression was still so gentle, like a celestial being. Song Yanqing saw Xiao Jin's strange gaze and said with a smile, "Is there a problem? Or is it that my ability is growing too fast?" "No." Xiao Jin looked away. She just felt a little strange. This strangeness came from Song Yanqing himself, but she didn't have any bad feelings about Song Yanqing. She also didn't feel that Song Yanqing had any ill intentions towards her, so she couldn't be bothered. Song Yanqing got up. "Are you going back tonight?" Xiao Jin nodded. "I have to go back. If Fei Fei finds out tomorrow, how am I going to explain to her that I appeared at your house in the middle of the night?" This didn't mean that there was a problem, but the Song family's door was tightly shut and there were bodyguards guarding it. There were also surveillance cameras around. How was he going to explain Xiao Jin's sudden appearance in the middle of the night? It would arouse the Song family's suspicion and uneasiness. Song Yanqing's eyes flashed. "How are you going back?" "Xiao Jin, go back the way you came." After saying this, she smiled at Song Yanqing, which made Song Yanqing stunned for a moment. "I'll go back first. Have a good rest." With that, Xiao Jin's figure disappeared. Song Yanqing stood in the same place. The lights were still bright, but it seemed that with Xiao Jin's disappearance, the night had gradually darkened. After a long while, he let out a low laugh. In the dark night, it was quiet and cold. When Xiao Jin got home, he realized that he was still wearing Song Yanqing's nightgown. I'll just send it back to him another day." She took it down and put it into the wardrobe. In the end, she heard someone talking about her from next door. The Ji family called. "They're really calling." The flustered voice belonged to Qiao Fei. Mu Jinming's voice was low. "Don't panic. It might not necessarily be about Xiao Jin." After saying that, he picked up the phone. After listening to a few words, he was a little silent.